Trains have appeared in many films throughout the years, as everything from the setting of the story to being part of a greater action set piece. As cool as these scenes are, not all of these engines are true to real life, and that gets on my nerves. So today, we're going to take a look at everything wrong with the trains in Before we look at the trains, let's first look at the context. Taking place in 2015 South Korea, the movie literally opens with a farmer recreating that one gif from Open Season. Alas, this wasn't just any old deer, this is an ominous zombie deer. An oh dear oh dear oh dear, if you will. This is about as funny as this movie gets. Our lead character for the story is Mr. Business, a divorced fund manager who's so busy with work he forgets how to be a good father. After messing up a birthday present for his daughter and missing her recital, Mr. Business agrees to take her to see her mum in Busan to make up for it. They hop aboard the next Seoul to Busan Express along with a high school baseball team, the Grandma sisters, Mr. CEO, an anxious homeless man, and this chap and his wife who me and my roommates affectionately dubbed the Unit. A commotion breaks out on the station as the train departs, and a scraped-up woman manages to slip past the world's most oblivious station master and jump aboard at the last minute. Along the trip, news starts to circulate of riots and some kind of outbreak, and before long, the scraped-up lady fully turns into a zombie and attacks a train attendant. And yeah, these aren't your slow, meandering zombies, these are the fast, aggressive, bitey kind, and just one bite is all it takes for someone to end up joining the horde. The situation quickly spirals out of control, and before you know it, carriages full of passengers are turned. The survivors make it to the back of the train and slam the doors on the oncoming horde. Unfortunately, these zombies happen to be the stupid kind that don't know how to work an automatic door and immediately stop being aggressive when they can't see anyone, still making them smarter than the average football hooligan. With a barrier keeping the zombies at bay, the train passes through Cheonan where we get a glimpse of the zombie carnage unfolding firsthand, before carrying on to Daejeon where the army is supposedly deployed to keep the infection at bay. Arriving at a suspiciously empty station, Mr. CEO demands the train continue to Busan as Daejeon is under quarantine, but passengers disembark regardless, only to find the army has also fallen to the horde. Fleeing back to the train, our protagonists manage to get back on board after Unit solos some zombies, but in the commotion, the pregnant woman, the daughter, the homeless guy and one of the Grandma sisters gets trapped in a toilet between two carriages of infected passengers. With all the passengers located at one end of the train, Mr. Business, Unit and a baseball kid at the other, and their respective family members trapped in the middle, the team decides to arm up and mount a rescue, with the goal of reaching the rest of the passengers. Here the film takes a bit of a tonal shift as we go from tense, ominous zombie survival to watching three dudes just beating up some fools. We also learn that the zombies have terrible eyesight and that they immediately become passive in the dark. Using this to their advantage, the squad manages to sneak past the zombies when travelling through tunnels, rescue the trapped passengers, and make their way to the rest of the survivors. Unfortunately, the zombies get alerted at the last minute, and the survivors, fearing the heroes are infected, refuse to let them in. Being bitten in the confusion, Unit sacrifices himself to give the protagonists time to break their way through. They manage to safely make it into the carriage with the survivors, but one of the Grandma sisters gets left behind in the commotion. Despite being alright, Mr. CEO convinces the rest of the passengers that the protagonists should be locked in the next car ahead in case they're infected. Why he suggests that instead of having everyone else move to the next car and leave the protagonists in this one, I don't know. Disgusted at everyone else's selfishness and paranoia that resulted in her sister getting killed, the other Grandma sister essentially just says, "Screw it," opens the door and lets the zombies in, killing pretty much everyone else left on board but the protagonists. With an obstruction on the tracks at East Daegu, the driver hops out and looks for another locomotive, with the protagonists following shortly behind. Turns out Mr. CEO survived and sacrifices the last train attendant to buy himself some time to escape too. The driver finds a locomotive and all seems to be going well, until a flaming freight engine comes barreling in and crashes into some of the zombie-filled passenger carriages. Baseball Boy and his girlfriend get split up from the party and are used as bait by Mr. CEO as he runs for the engine, the driver also getting mauled while trying to help him. Meanwhile, everyone else remains trapped under a toppled carriage, zombies banging at the window. They manage to make it out after the homeless guy sacrifices himself and just about make it to the locomotive, only to find Mr. CEO was bitten earlier in the confusion and is on the verge of turning himself. Mr. Business fights him off but gets bitten during the tussle. In his last moments of consciousness, he tells the pregnant lady how to drive the train and says goodbye to his daughter before throwing himself off the engine. The surviving pair arrive at a blockade near Busan where they're greeted by the army who finally brings them to safety. And that's where the film ends. What a ride. Usually I have something witty or clever to say about the movie, some kind of sarcastic remark to make about the film's quality, but honestly, I have none. This is an incredibly well-crafted story. The pacing is perfect, it builds this constant and looming sense of dread, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's a pretty bleak story, all things considered, but one that's masterfully told. But we're not here for masterful storytelling, we're here for... I'm going to be honest, I've not been able to find much on the behind the scenes of this movie. Most of the stuff online is just production footage and outtakes. The main train that appears in the film is the KTX-I, Korean Train Express's high-speed passenger locomotive set based on the French TGV. 90% of the carriage shots were filmed in sets as you'd expect, so to give the illusion that the train was moving, the crew recorded the scenery during a train journey from Seoul to Dongdaegu. Large LED screen plates were set up around the sets displaying the footage so the background appeared to be moving in camera rather than using green screen. Considering their sets, the art department did a very good job at replicating the interior of KTX carriages. I've not been in one personally, but comparing the movie and reference pictures, I'd say they did a bang-up job. Many station scenes were shot on location at Daejeon, Cheonan and East Daegu, though some backgrounds had to be digitally recreated for more complex shots. Mixed in here and there is also some dashcam footage from actual train services and footage of a KTX in service. The zombies too were impressive. The makeup department created a, quote, zombie factory for extras, with teams airbrushing veins, flicking them with blood, and adjusting skin tones depending on how infected the person was and where they were bitten. Their appearance was inspired by infections in movies such as District 9 and World War Z, and their movements were based on characters from Ghost in the Shell, 7 Days to Die, and Silent Hill. Considering the budget was only around $8.5 million, I'd say they did a terrific job. Not only with the effects and sets, but with the soundtrack, acting, and cinematography as well. As great as this movie is, however, we're not here to praise it. We're here for some errors. Like I said with Unstoppable, I'm not exactly fluent with modern diesel or electric passenger rolling stock, especially in countries I've never been to, so do bear with me if I miscount something. Starting out, I'm going to give the first ding to this station master here for failing to notice this woman scrambling aboard. Between the heavy footsteps, panting, and the loud thud she made when climbing on, I'm surprised this guy didn't even glance in her direction when it's his job to pay attention to such things. Another thing I'll make note of now is the doors. They're somewhat inconsistent throughout the film. At first they're shown to be automatic, pull the handle and they slide open, but can be set to manual so they can't be accidentally opened by the zombies. By midway through the film, however, the doors are mostly set to manual despite the characters not doing anything to change the settings. Hi, future train of thought here that's editing the video. Turns out they actually do set the doors to manual. It's just blink and you'll miss it, and I guess I missed it. So this whole segment of me complaining about the doors is completely moot, but I don't know how to segue past this part because I refer to the doors later, so... 24 minutes in, we get this shot of a load of zombies piling on top of each other inside of a carriage. The implication here is that they're climbing over each other to try and get at Mr. Business, with the train attendant leading the charge. But we see the carriage is empty at first, with the zombies funneling through the door to give chase, only in the next shot to see dozens have managed to come through without catching up. Those carriage doors are nowhere near wide enough to let that many people through in one go, even if they are pushing against each other. Arriving in Daejeon, Mr. CEO asks if it's possible to disconnect the carriages full of zombies from the train, to which the driver informs him that he can't do it at the station. While at first this seems like a contrived way to justify keeping all the zombies on the train, the driver is actually telling the truth. Like the TGVs of France, the carriages of the KTXI are all connected with Jacob's bogies, meaning the carriages cannot be individually separated without removing the body from the bogie. So the driver saying they need to keep the carriages full of zombies attached isn't just contrived for the plot. Sure, he could still detach the leading locomotive, but looking at all the passengers still aboard, there's no way they're all fitting in that alone. Going to complain about the doors again, this time the outer ones. When everyone disembarks from the train, the doors are shown to open automatically to let them off. But when leaving, people slam those train doors shut on their own without pulling any kind of emergency release. Also, this door is wide open as the train is leaving. Correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the driver or the guard has a button or key that they can activate that shuts all the doors on the train before departing. I get they're in a rush, what with the whole horde of zombies flooding out of the station thing going on, but you'd think that locking down the doors before departing would be high on the priority list. During the rescue, the train passes through several tunnels, giving the heroes the chance to slip past the zombies unseen, but I'm pretty sure most modern electric carriages have lights that automatically turn on when it's dark. So they would only have half a second of darkness before the lights kicked in and they're left looking like meat in a deli counter. I will give the filmmakers props. I checked the route the train would take on Google Maps, and after Daejeon Station, the line does pass through several long tunnels on the way to Busan, so this entire sequence is feasible. The amount of time they spend in the tunnels is sometimes longer or shorter than it would be in real life, but otherwise, good job. To sneak by the zombies, our protagonists decide to crawl across the luggage racks. Now, I don't have the exact measurements of every KTX carriage, never mind their luggage racks specifically, but going off what reference images I can find, it's plausible that most of the cast could fit on and crawl across the racks given they're all relatively skinny. Unit might have some trouble, but otherwise they'd be okay. What I will say, however, is they're doing well to crawl across there without making much sound. There's the odd squeak and groan here and there, but in real life the adults would really be putting a lot of strain on it. And given it looks to be partially made of glass and plastic, that rack should be creaking like it's begging for mercy. Arriving at East Daegu, and by extension the final act of the film, it seems all the train nonsense was piled up at the end. Starting out, I can't figure out how these shipping containers ended up on the track. From the angle and the way they're dented, it looks as if something collided with the side of the wagons and knocked them off, but in the wide shot we see nothing. On top of that, only the front 3 wagons are container carriers, there's a boxcar, then the rest of the train is just made up of passenger carriages. Last I checked, mixed traffic trains went out of style a long time ago, so why there's shipping containers at the front of all these coaches is beyond me. It's a good thing the blockage was there to make sure the driver stopped though, seeing how the points ahead of the engine were set against them. Even with the end of the world happening, automatic signalling should have shown the line ahead wasn't set properly, so he shouldn't have been going so quickly through the station in the first place. The only reason he slows down and stops is because of all the smoke blocking his view. All the same, got to respect the driver's ability to remain professional through all this. The driver is so good in fact that he's able to turn a locomotive around without using a turntable or a Y. As he's departing, a lone locomotive that's burst into flames just comes barreling into the station and where do I even begin with this? The cab and the rear end of the locomotive are in flames, but there's no major components in the cab or the rear that would burst into flames like this. And the speed it's going implies that it's been travelling down the line for some time, which, given there doesn't look to be anyone at the controls, means the dead man's brake should have come on long ago. Speaking of fire, there's all these little fires burning around the station, and I can't figure out what's causing them. In fact, fires are just springing up everywhere with no real rhyme or reason. Put your theories in the comments. Mine is that the zombies just really like biting lithium batteries. The flaming locomotive crashes into some carriages and knocks them to the side. Yet, despite the severity of the impact, the parts the locomotive struck are relatively unscathed when we next see them. At least some of these windows holding the zombies back once the carriage tipped over would have broken by now from both the impact and the weight of the zombies hitting them. As with the flaming train, the dead man's brakes on this locomotive should have come on once the driver left the cab. Something else that nobody seems to consider is whether or not the line ahead is set to take them to Busan. Control manages to stay online long enough to keep the line set for the express, but the locomotive the protagonists use to escape is on a different line, and since nobody contacts Control to inform them of the change, the characters just have to hope that the points are set in their favour. After throwing off Mr. CEO, Mr. Business tells the pregnant woman to simply pull the brake once they've reached safety. Which, I don't think I need to tell you there's more to driving a GT26 CW-2 than that. I'm pretty sure she just Googles how to drive a train once he's left the cab. And the final error we get is, well, it's to do with our protagonist throwing himself off a moving train. After realising he's infected, he runs to the back of the locomotive and reminisces about his daughter before falling off. However, there's a railing in the way. So the next time we see him, he's just on the other side of the railing as he lets himself fall. What a way to end this segment. What a way to end this film. What a video to put out for Halloween. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Happy Halloween, everyone! This was one hell of a movie. Like I said, the whole thing is done spectacularly well. The entire time there's this constant oppressive air of foreboding and dread that only gets more intense as the film goes on, and the acting, soundtrack and cinematography are all on point. Yeah, there are moments when the tightness of the budget shows, but considering this was director Yeon Sang-ho's first live-action production, I'd say he knocked it out of the park. It's a sad story, don't get me wrong, my heartstrings were being plucked like a banjo at the end, but what's the point in having emotions if you don't get to feel them from time to time? I feel a lot of you are going to say I'm really nitpicking problems and scraping the bottom of the barrel for criticisms, and honestly, you'd be right. I struggled throughout writing this video to find errors in this film that couldn't be easily explained away. Again, just going to show how on the ball everyone was when making this movie. Though I'm sure those who are more familiar with Korean rolling stock than I am will have spotted some things I missed. So overall train accuracy, I'm willing to give this an 8 out of 10. Most of the issues I found could be explained away, and the few I did point out in this video are at least somewhat plausible. The nonsense at the end is what prevents this from being a true 10 out of 10, but out of all the movies I've covered so far, this has to be the most grounded. If it's not clear from my praise, I highly recommend this film, be you a horror enthusiast or simply looking for a tense survival thriller. After all, what better way is there to get into a spooky mood than watching a man realise he's failing to be there for the one person in the world he cares for most, all while the slow but inevitable hand of death starts taking the lives of everyone around him. People with so many unique life experiences and so much potential, all unjustly ripped away by the cold, violent, unfeeling forces of the universe, leaving behind only a few who must carry with them the weight and sorrow of such immense loss for the rest of their lives. Have a happy Halloween, folks!